My sister wrecked my hard-earned car as a joke, so I decided to take her to court. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and a few months back I finally accomplished something I'd been striving for over several years. I bought my dream car. It wasn't a luxury sports car or anything extravagant, but it was brand new, and it was mine. I had saved every penny I could, balancing 2 jobs and skipping vacations to make it possible. Driving it off the lot felt like a reward for all the effort and sacrifices I had made. My 24-year-old sister, Erica, has always been unpredictable. The family often excuses her behavior by saying things like, "That's just how Erica is." She's the type to show up late, borrow things without permission, and turn any scenario into an opportunity for a prank. I generally kept my distance from her, knowing she rarely took anything seriously, but I never imagined she'd cross such a serious line. It all began during our annual family reunion at my parents' house. They throw a big gathering every summer, and this year was no different. I brought my new car along to show everyone. I parked it carefully in the driveway, ensuring it was out of the way, but still close enough for me to keep an eye on it. The moment Erica saw the car, she zeroed in on it, circling it while making jokes about how I must have finally struck gold. I knew what she was planning when she said, "Let me take it for a spin. I promise I'll bring it back in one piece." I laughed and firmly refused, explaining just how much the car meant to me and that I didn't let anyone drive it, not even my best friends. She rolled her eyes and shrugged, but her expression screamed, "Challenge accepted." For the next few hours, Erica kept bringing it up, teasing me about being overprotective and boring. Some older family members even chimed in, suggesting I loosen up and let her drive it. Despite the pressure, I stood my ground. The car was off limits, no matter how much teasing I endured. Later that evening, we all gathered for dinner. The conversation was lively, and I let my guard down. My keys were in my jacket pocket, which I had left hanging by the door. I didn't think twice about it until I realized Erica had been gone for a while. As dessert was being served, I heard the faint sound of an engine revving outside. My stomach dropped. I sprinted to the window and saw my car speeding out of the driveway, with Erica behind the wheel. I rushed outside, yelling her name, but she was already out of sight. My dad tried to reassure me, saying Erica was just having fun and would return soon. I couldn't believe how lightly everyone was taking it. I was furious, but helpless to do anything but wait. An hour later, I heard a loud scraping sound and laughter. Erica returned, and my heart sank at the sight of the damage. The front end of my car was crushed, the bumper was barely attached, one headlight was shattered, and the side was deeply scratched. Erica stepped out, grinning like she'd pulled off the ultimate prank. Tossing the keys to me, she said, "Relax, dude. It's just a car. You have insurance, right?" I was speechless, staring at the wreckage, trying to comprehend what just happened. When I finally asked her what she was thinking, she shrugged and said she was just messing around. The family's reaction was mixed. Some were horrified and agreed that Erica had gone too far, while others, including my parents, tried to downplay it, calling it an accident and urging me to let it go. Erica acted like it was nothing. The next morning, I got a repair estimate, and it was staggering. Fixing the damage would cost $8,000. When I confronted Erica and told her she needed to cover the cost, she laughed and said, "That's what insurance is for." That's when I realized she wasn't going to take responsibility. I gave her one final chance to make it right, but she brushed me off, claiming I was overreacting. Things got worse when she started mocking me on social media, posting pictures of my damaged car with captions like, "Oops, my bad," and laughing emojis. That was the last straw. I consulted some friends and shared the story online, and the consensus was clear. I needed to take legal action. I hesitated at first. Suing Erica would cause a huge rift in the family, but she left me no choice. I contacted a lawyer and initiated the lawsuit. Erica thought I was bluffing, but she was about to see how serious I was. Update. After deciding to sue Erica, I acted quickly. I met with a lawyer, explained the situation, and we started the process by gathering all the required documents. The repair estimate alone was over $8,000. In addition to that, there were legal fees and the inconvenience of missing work to handle everything. News of the lawsuit spread quickly within the family. My parents supported me, agreeing that Erica needed to face the consequences. However, my extended family took it differently. They accused me of being heartless, claiming I was tearing the family apart over a car. They even called me selfish, suggesting I drop it since I had insurance. But the insurance wouldn't cover the damage because Erica had taken the car without my permission. Erica, as expected, dismissed the entire situation as a joke. She told everyone that my lawsuit was just a bluff, convinced there was no way I'd actually follow through. To make matters worse, she posted a mocking video on her social media. In it, she walked up to a toy car, pretended to crash it into a wall, and burst out laughing. The caption read, "Oops, guess I'm getting sued now, LOL." While some mutual friends found it amusing, others messaged me to say she was out of line. The whole ordeal only strengthened my resolve to see this through. Meanwhile, the final repair estimate from the mechanic came in, and it was worse than I had anticipated. The crash had caused serious damage to the suspension and frame, making the car unsafe to drive until repaired. The total cost was over $12,000. This was far beyond a simple dent or scratch. It was a significant financial blow. Balancing the legal process with my job was exhausting. I was burning through my savings and taking on extra hours just to keep up with the legal expenses. At one point, Erica's lawyer reached out with a settlement offer. Erica was willing to pay $1,000 if I dropped the lawsuit. I didn't need to think twice before rejecting it. That amount barely covered a fraction of the repair costs, let alone other related expenses. The family drama escalated when some extended relatives decided to intervene. They organized a meeting at my parents' house, inviting everyone involved. I wasn't sure what to expect, but attended anyway, hoping for a resolution. As usual, Erica arrived late and treated the entire situation as a joke. While others tried to have a serious conversation, she continued with sarcastic comments and jokes. At one point, she even remarked, "It's not like I killed someone." Her lack of remorse was infuriating, and it became clear that the meeting wouldn't solve anything. After that, I concentrated on collecting as much evidence as possible for the case. A major breakthrough came when I remembered that the parking lot where Erica had crashed my car had security cameras. I reached out to the property owner and managed to obtain the footage. The video clearly showed Erica speeding into the lot, attempting to drift, and losing control before hitting a lamppost. The proof was undeniable. I also shared my story online, not for pity, but to seek advice. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people commented, offering legal tips and encouragement. Many even shared their own experiences of dealing with entitled family members. It was a comforting reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight. A week later, Erica received the official court documents. That was when she finally realized I wasn't bluffing. Her attitude changed, at least momentarily. She called me, suggesting we come to an agreement. When I told her the only solution was for her to pay the full repair costs, she hung up. The family tension continued to grow. Some relatives stopped speaking to me, while others remained neutral, not wanting to take sides. My parents doubled down, calling me selfish and accusing me of tearing the family apart. It was isolating, but my close friends were a huge source of support. They reminded me that I was doing the right thing by holding Erica accountable. An unexpected development came when my younger sister contacted me privately. She apologized and admitted she had seen this behavior from Erica her entire life. She even volunteered to testify on my behalf, saying she was tired of Erica always escaping consequences. When Erica found out, she exploded, accusing my sister of betrayal. Her reaction only highlighted her immaturity. As the court date neared, my lawyer and I finalized our case. We had repair estimates, surveillance footage, screenshots of Erica's social media posts, and a willing witness. Everything was in place. The countdown to court had begun, and while I felt nervous, I was also determined. Erica had spent her life avoiding responsibility, but this time she wouldn't get away with it. Update 2. As the court date drew closer, everything moved quickly. My lawyer meticulously built our case, ensuring every detail was covered. The repair estimates, surveillance footage, and Erica's mocking social media posts were all compiled into a solid file. The video from the parking lot was our strongest piece of evidence, capturing her reckless driving and the exact moment she crashed. It was undeniable. My younger sister, who had offered to testify, provided a thorough statement. She described Erica's lifelong pattern of careless behavior and how the family had always overlooked it. Her account painted a clear picture of someone who had never faced consequences. Erica eventually hired a lawyer, and they tried the same tactic she had used before, offering a low settlement. This time, the offer was slightly better, $2,500, but still laughably low compared to the $12,000 in damages. My lawyer rejected it without hesitation. During this time, my parents intensified their efforts to turn the family against me. They called nearly everyone, accusing me of being petty and making Erica the victim. Some relatives sided with them, pressuring me to drop the case, while others remained neutral or quietly supported me. Then the anonymous messages began. I received texts and emails from unknown numbers calling me greedy, blaming me for family discord, and suggesting I let it go for the sake of peace. The timing and tone made it clear these messages were linked to Erica or my parents. In the middle of all this chaos, a distant relative unexpectedly reached out. She shared a story about Erica damaging her property years ago and how my parents refused to take responsibility. It wasn't a car, but the situation was eerily similar. She encouraged me to stay strong, saying Erica needed to be held accountable. Work became another source of stress. Between meetings with my lawyer and the constant family drama, my focus suffered. My boss noticed and pulled me aside to ask if everything was all right. I briefly explained the situation to my boss, and, to my relief, he was understanding. He reminded me to prioritize my well-being and reassured me that my work performance was still strong despite everything going on. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, the insurance company denied my claim, stating that since Erica had taken the car without my consent, they wouldn't cover the damage. This left me responsible for paying the full repair costs up front, intensifying my financial burden. Meanwhile, Erica didn't seem to feel any pressure, or at least she didn't show it. During a family birthday gathering, she decided to create a scene, calling me a sellout and accusing me of caring more about money than family. A few people chuckled uneasily, but most looked uncomfortable. I chose not to respond. I wasn't there to argue, and her behavior only strengthened my resolve to follow through with the lawsuit. The situation gained traction online as my story spread. A few local news outlets reached out, offering to interview me. I declined. This wasn't about publicity, but about holding Erica accountable. Before the trial, there was one final meeting between the lawyers to attempt a settlement. Erica and my parents attended, and it was obvious they still didn't take it seriously. Erica leaned back in her chair, smirking, while her lawyer proposed another low-ball offer. When my lawyer presented the evidence, including the security footage, Erica's attitude remained unchanged. She refused to apologize or show any willingness to fix the damage. The meeting ended with no resolution. To make matters worse, Erica's parents decided to escalate things by threatening a countersuit, claiming emotional distress caused by the lawsuit. My lawyer assured me it was an empty threat with no legal basis, but it was just another example of how far they were willing to go to avoid admitting Erica's fault. Despite the turmoil, the online community became a source of strength. People shared advice, offered support, and even suggested starting a fundraiser to help with my legal costs. I appreciated the thought, but I didn't want to make this a public spectacle or rely on strangers' money. Finally, the court date arrived. I woke early, went over everything with my lawyer one more time, and headed to the courthouse. Walking into that building was nerve-wracking, but I knew I had prepared thoroughly. Erica, on the other hand, strolled in nonchalantly, her trademark smirk still in place. Yet, I caught a brief flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. The case was about to begin, and I was determined to see it through. Update 3. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, but the tension was palpable. On one side, I sat with my lawyer, who had neatly organized the case file in front of us. Across the room, Erica lounged in her chair, her lawyer rifling through papers. My parents sat behind her, whispering with expressions of irritation and self-righteousness. The judge entered, and the proceedings started. Erica's lawyer began with his opening statement, framing the incident as a harmless prank that went wrong. He emphasized her youth, calling her a young woman who made a mistake and didn't deserve financial ruin. According to him, I was the unreasonable one for taking this to court, instead of resolving it within the family. When it was our turn, my lawyer wasted no time. He presented the sequence of events, from Erica taking my keys without permission to the crash and its aftermath. He detailed the financial burden, the repair costs, and the emotional impact of dealing with the fallout. His calm yet firm tone painted a clear picture of how serious Erica's reckless actions were. Then came the surveillance video. The room fell silent as it played. The footage clearly showed Erica speeding into the parking lot, attempting to drift, and crashing into a lamppost. The sound of the impact made some people in the gallery wince. When the video ended, Erica shifted uncomfortably, her smirk finally fading. Next was witness testimony. My younger sister took the stand, describing Erica's consistent pattern of irresponsible behavior and her tendency to avoid consequences. She spoke about other incidents of property damage and Erica's complete lack of remorse after the crash. Her testimony was clear and consistent, painting a picture of entitlement and immaturity. When Erica testified, things started to unravel. She tried to appear calm, insisting she hadn't meant any harm and didn't think the car would be damaged. However, under cross-examination, she faltered. My lawyer questioned her about the social media posts, and Erica dismissed them as jokes, unrelated to the incident. He then presented screenshots showing her openly mocking the situation and admitting she took the car without permission. The tension in the room grew as Erica struggled to explain her contradictions, making it clear she wasn't being honest. My parents testified next, trying to shift the blame onto me. They argued I should have been more forgiving, calling the lawsuit an overreaction. Their statements were emotional, but lacked substance. They attempted to portray Erica as the victim, but their arguments were flimsy. The judge didn't hold back. After reviewing the evidence and hearing the testimonies, he addressed Erica directly. He criticized her lack of responsibility and dismissive attitude throughout the case. His stern tone caused Erica's confident demeanor to crumble. Both lawyers gave their closing arguments, and the weight of the judge's words hung heavy in the room. Erica's attorney repeated the argument that it was nothing more than a prank that got out of hand, while my lawyer focused on the financial damage and the necessity of holding Erica responsible. After both sides finished presenting their cases, the judge called for a brief recess before delivering the verdict. Those 20 minutes stretched on endlessly. I sat silently, eyes fixed on the courtroom door, while my parents whispered angrily behind her, and Erica avoided looking at anyone. When the judge returned, the decision was clear. He ruled in my favor, ordering Erica to pay the full $122,000 for repairs, plus additional compensation for the emotional distress her actions caused. The total amount was considerable, but it felt justified given all I had gone through. Erica didn't handle it well. She stood up quickly, muttering to herself, and stormed out of the courtroom. The heavy door slammed shut behind her, making everyone in the room flinch. My parents followed, giving me angry glares as they left. After the verdict, a few family members who were present quietly offered their support, some even saying they admired my resolve, though they spoke in hushed tones to avoid more conflict. Others walked away silently, their disapproval clear on their faces. As I left the courtroom, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Winning brought closure, but the family rift weighed heavily on me. I knew that mending those relationships, if possible, would take time. The next steps were clear: repair the car and begin rebuilding my finances. But for now, I had achieved what I set out to do. Erica finally faced the consequences of her actions. The fallout was messy, but it felt like progress toward accountability. Driving away from the courthouse, I thought about the journey that led me here. The road ahead wouldn't be simple, but at least I was finally moving forward. Update 4. Winning the lawsuit didn't mean the situation was over. Although Erica was ordered to pay, she predictably didn't comply. Weeks passed without any sign of payment. My lawyer explained that the next step was to garnish her wages. It was a slow and tedious process involving more paperwork and delays, but it was necessary to enforce the court's decision. In the meantime, I finally got my car repaired. Seeing it back to its original state felt like a small but meaningful victory. It wasn't just about the money. It was about taking back what Erica had recklessly damaged. Picking up the car from the repair shop brought a sense of satisfaction, though the financial strain remained, even with the court ruling. Erica, meanwhile, started feeling pressure from mutual friends. Some openly criticized her behavior, saying she needed to own up to her mistakes. This led to a half-hearted apology on her social media, where she expressed regret if anyone was upset, and claimed she hadn't intended to cause drama. It was clear she wasn't genuinely sorry. She was just trying to quiet the growing backlash. The family divide grew wider. Some relatives boycotted gatherings at my parents' house, blaming the lawsuit for the family conflict. Others chose to stay out of it entirely, avoiding the topic altogether. Tension filled the air at family events, and my parents bore the brunt of it. Still, they stood by me, even if it meant losing connections with some family members. Surprisingly, during this time, an older family member who rarely got involved in disputes reached out. They gave me advice on handling the drama and reminded me that standing up for what's right often comes with challenges. Their unexpected support was deeply appreciated. Eventually, Erica's wages were garnished, and I began receiving the payments she owed. It wasn't a lump sum, but each payment felt like progress. Slowly, I started recovering financially. The legal fees had drained my savings, but I was determined to bounce back. As the aftermath unfolded, Erica's reputation suffered. Her behavior throughout the lawsuit alienated many of her friends and family members. Invitations to events dwindled, and even her closest friends began pulling away. Some people completely severed ties, unwilling to support someone who refused to take responsibility. Word eventually reached me that Erica's attitude was affecting her work. Her immaturity and lack of accountability were reportedly creating problems with her colleagues. I didn't take any pleasure in this, but it demonstrated that her actions were catching up with her in all aspects of her life. At a family reunion a few months later, the tension was thick. Erica attended but avoided me, staying on the other side of the room and barely speaking to anyone beyond her immediate family. Her parents, however, made a point of glaring at me whenever they thought I wasn't looking. It was awkward, but I stood firm. I was there for the relatives who supported me, not to stir up trouble. After that event, I set firm boundaries. I made it clear that I wouldn't tolerate disrespect or enabling behavior. If others wanted to hold on to their resentment, that was their choice, but I wouldn't let it affect me anymore. Online, the community that had supported me through the ordeal continued offering encouragement. Many reminded me to prioritize self-care and move forward positively. Their advice helped me focus on what truly mattered, rebuilding my life and strengthening relationships with those who genuinely cared. Erica's parents, however, clung to their resentment, blaming me for the family conflict. But their arguments began losing traction. More relatives started seeing through their attempts to defend Erica, especially since her behavior hadn't changed. Despite everything, I felt peace knowing I had done the right thing. Despite everything, I found time to reflect on how far I had come. The emotional impact of the lawsuit and the family drama was heavy, but it taught me the importance of standing up for myself. For years, I had avoided conflict to maintain peace, but this experience showed me that sometimes true peace can't exist without accountability. Erica's behavior became a cautionary example within the family. While I don't believe she has fully learned her lesson, the effects of her choices are still being felt. Her social circle has grown smaller, and her once carefree demeanor now seems more like avoidance than confidence. My focus is on moving forward. I've started new projects, reconnected with supportive friends, and even considered therapy to process everything. This period of my life has been difficult, but it marked a turning point. Standing up for myself wasn't simple, but it was necessary. Looking back, I wouldn't change anything, despite the unintended fallout. The lesson I gained was worth it, and it's one I will carry for a long time. Update 5. Several months after the trial, I received the final payment from Erica, officially clearing the debt. The financial side of this ordeal was finally resolved. It took a while to accept how long the process had dragged out, but relief washed over me knowing it was done. During this time, I noticed a subtle shift in family dynamics. Some relatives who had distanced themselves began reaching out again. At first, it was through small gestures, like comments on social media or casual texts checking in. Eventually, a few admitted they had felt pressured by my parents to take sides and regretted how things unfolded. Erica, on the other hand, was noticeably different at family gatherings. She didn't apologize directly, but her typical loud and confident behavior was muted. She kept to herself, avoided confrontation, and even managed to make polite conversation with others. It was a stark contrast to the person who once laughed off the damage she caused. While it didn't feel like complete accountability, it was a step in the right direction. With the payments settled and some additional savings from work, I decided it was time for a fresh start. Instead of just fixing my car, I traded it in for a newer model. This upgrade felt like a symbol of progress, a reminder that my hard work paid off and that I had learned valuable lessons. Driving my new car gave me a sense of reclaiming control and moving forward. The family eventually adjusted to a new normal. I had set clear boundaries and enforced them. Relatives who used to overlook bad behavior began calling it out, likely influenced by everything that happened with Erica. Her actions and the lawsuit became a cautionary tale whenever discussions about responsibility and fairness arose. The relationships that truly mattered grew stronger. My aunt and uncle, who supported me throughout the ordeal, remained close, and I made an effort to deepen my connection with those who stood by me. Friends who had my back all along became even more important, reminding me that it's not just about the family you're born into, but the people who show up when it counts. Eventually, even my parents, who had been the most vocal critics, softened their stance. They never directly apologized, but the hostility faded. At a family event, they made an effort to engage in polite conversation, though it was clear they weren't ready to acknowledge their part in the conflict. Still, the absence of tension was a small but meaningful step forward. Online, I shared a final update, thanking the community for their support and explaining how the situation was resolved. I reflected on the lessons I had learned, emphasizing the importance of standing your ground, even when the odds seem overwhelming. The response was incredible. Thousands of comments came in, with people sharing their own stories and commending the courage it took to follow through. Erica's behavior and its aftermath became a broader lesson for the family. People began to take responsibility more seriously, and the girls will be girls attitude that had shielded her for so long started to disappear. Even Erica appeared to be reconsidering her actions, though she never openly admitted it. On a personal level, I knew there was still healing to do. The emotional strain from the lawsuit and family conflict wasn't something I could ignore. I decided to try therapy as a way to work through my feelings and move forward without bitterness. The sessions helped me find peace and reinforced the idea that standing up for myself was about justice and self-respect, not revenge. Months later, Erica reached out privately. It wasn't a grand gesture, just a simple message admitting she had been wrong. She didn't offer excuses or try to defend herself, which was progress. While I wasn't ready to fully reconcile, I accepted her words as a sign she might finally be growing up. This experience also gave me an opportunity to mentor my younger sister, who was starting to show some of the same reckless behavior as Erica. We had a serious conversation about responsibility and consequences, and I used my story to illustrate why it's important to consider how your actions affect others. It felt good to turn a difficult experience into a lesson that could benefit someone else. As I drove my new car down familiar streets, I reflected on the journey. It had been messy, painful, and often lonely. Yet it taught me more about myself than I ever imagined. This chapter of my life was finally closed, and although it wasn't the path I would have chosen, I was proud of how I handled it. I stood up for myself, held someone accountable, and emerged stronger. Now, the road ahead was clear, and I was ready for whatever came next.